Let's talk a little bit about India, but before we do, it's important to understand the roots of Western civilization, and these can't be separated from Greek thinking and Greek philosophy and the Greek conception of virtue. And the man to talk to you about that is Stelios, and he's going to be talking about that with Luca on Thursday at 6 p.m. UK time. So please attend the webinar and then buy the course.
The webinar is for free. So
the webinar is for free, yes. So let's talk a little bit about India. Now, the history of Christianity in India is extremely old, right? It was St. Thomas the Apostle who went to India and was martyred there. Apparently, he was killed because some members of the royal family converted to Christianity and the local Hindu king didn't like that. But truth be told, afterwards, Hindu-Christian relations were not that bad. Not particularly evil, not particularly bad. But things are beginning to change. And arguably, things have been changing since the 20s with the rise of the RSS and the predecessor party to the ruling BJP. But now what's happening is that you are seeing more and more Indian states. There's going to be, as of this year, 11 Indian states enacting anti-conversion laws where they will try to ban religious conversion. And these are some of the biggest states in India. I think Maharashtra is where Bombay is. So it's pretty significant that this is happening. But the logic when you look at these laws to ban religious conversion is ridiculously poor. So they're supposed to be banning coerced conversion. This is the idea behind them. However, they specify a procedure for what they define as a willful conversion. That is, a person who wants to convert his religion must make a declaration before the district magistrate. Then, after giving this advance notice, the district magistrate will investigate to see if this is a coerced conversion. And coercion could mean anything from sort of allurement, which is a very ill-defined term, to actual threat of physical force. Now, if people are being threatened with force to convert, yes, arrest the person doing so. But allurement is a bit of a weird one. Post-conversion, the converted person must send another declaration. This is from a different state. This is from the Rajasthan state. But that's a bill that's already in existence, right? And the new bill that's coming up in Maharashtra is supposed to be even tougher. After converting, the converted person must send another declaration. This declaration will be displayed on the notice board along with details about the persons who converted, such as the father's name, the date of birth, the address, the place of residence, and the religions between the person converted. Meaning that any random mob will have all of that person's information with the very clear suggestion, go and inflict some violence. Very often these laws are presented as being anti-Muslim, and there is in India this obsession with something allegedly called love jihad, whereby Muslim men will try to supposedly seduce Hindu women and then marry them. But this is what the obsession is. The reality is that it very often results in violence against Christians. And anybody who doesn't follow these regulations of giving notice to the magistrate, having all of their personal details published, and so on, the conversion would be deemed illegal and void. Like, I don't understand how you enforce that. Can you sort of...
What is the Christian population of India?
So it used to be 2.5 something percent in the 1970s, then it went down to 2.4, and now it's 2.3% of the total population.
Right.
So it's a tiny population, but there are some states...
in a country the size of India,
yes,
that's still a lot of people.
That's still tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
That's still tens of millions of people, right? Not providing a pre-conversion declaration will be punishable by imprisonment between 6 months and 3 years, and a minimum fine of 10,000 rupees. And then that can escalate. And anybody can launch what is in India called a first incident report. So that's when a incident is reported to the police against an unlawful conversion. So any member of your family, any member of who is deemed aggrieved, including various relatives, can report it. And the burden of proof that a conversion is unlawful will be on the accused. So it's not that the prosecution has to prove their case, it's the other way around.
Well, this means basically that it's entirely arbitrary.
Yes.
It's entirely whimsical because it's subjective.
Yes.
There are no ways to establish it in an objective sense.
Yes.
In a sense that, it's accessible to everyone. Like you established that a murder has taken place. It's not that. It's whatever the body, decision-making body we're talking about wants to decide at that time.
Yep. So this has been an ongoing issue in India. This is an article from The Hindu from 2016 arguing that there should be a law banning religious conversions because it's a huge national security risk. And it went so far as to having the Supreme Court finding that religious conversions are in fact a national security risk. Okay, that's an interesting take. But the argument is that people should be voting for a Hindu-friendly party. The world's most ancient civilization, if it's going to withstand the onslaught of external forces, we should have essentially Hindutva, the ideology of India as a Hindu first nation or as a Hindu only nation. It's a very ill-defined term. I'll get into it in a second.
Aren't the Chinese older as a civilization?
Yes. The majority community, the Hindus that is, must destroy the caste system and revive Sanskrit language to successfully thwart the expansionist agenda of the other religions. We're going to talk about expansionist agendas here.
Revive the Sanskrit language.
I don't get it either.
Okay.
I don't get it either. I mean, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Anyway. The Hindus have never discriminated against other religions, but it has been facing an unprecedented threat from conversions which are highly detrimental to democracy.
To save our democracy. Yeah.
It's another save our democracy. It's another, exactly. The whole world raises a hue and cry when something happens to Muslims and Christians, but there is no one to espouse the cause of over 5 lakh, lakh means 10,000, Kashmiri Pandits who are living in exile in their own country, which is true. Like the way the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis treat Hindus is absolutely abominable. But why this sort of becomes a law against religious conversion, I don't understand. Interestingly, anti-conversion laws began during the time of British rule, because the perspective of the Hindus and of some British liberals was that we need to preserve some of these smaller communities and some of these weird tribal and lower castes who actually saw Christianity as liberating them. And rightly so. If you know anything about the Hindu caste system, it's ridiculously rigid. It is deeply discriminatory to the extent that you have people in Microsoft or in Google complaining that they are being discriminated against by other Indians because they are of lower caste. And so
sound like a very American problems to have in Silicon Valley.
It's a very American problem, but it's coming to Britain as well. Like in one company here, I know for a fact that this was happening. So you see this whole idea of India trying to become more nationalistic, and it's supported by the Supreme Court. I mean, I don't understand why the Supreme Court found conversion as a threat to national security. Mainly because I don't understand Hinduism, really, but that's a different story. But the reality is that this is translated into a lot more attacks on Christians in India. 800 attacks in 2004, more than 2023, and I think now for this year, it's in the 700-800 range already. So it's sort of regularly picking up. And Modi tries to sort of be nice about it, but really he ends up being very mealy-mouthed. Part of the problem is that the police don't receive reports from Christians. So whenever an incident happens, a criminal incident, the first thing you have to do is to go to the police and register what is called the first incident report. I mentioned that.
So India's Prevent doesn't work.
India's Prevent doesn't work. Yes, unfortunately. But the police then decide that no, we're not going to register one for you. And therefore, we're not going to initiate a criminal case against the person who attacked you, which means that there is total immunity. And if there's total immunity, what are you going to get? Well, you're going to get more attacks.
It just emboldens it.
Yeah, exactly. Or the police will usually try to pacify the victims, saying that if you file a case, then the attackers may become more aggressive, and then your life will become more dangerous. So that's the Indian police for you. Now, if anybody knows anything about the Indian police, they're insanely corrupt.
I mean,
Insane.
this is just
I
saying,
didn't
submit to the guilty.
Yeah, exactly.
Just-
Exactly.
I didn't know
Exactly.
anything about the Indian police, but I could have guessed that.
I mean, I've watched Slumdog Millionaire. That didn't help.
No.
Reports for a newspaper called The Wire have highlighted how Hindutva activists have filed false conversion cases against people from marginalized castes who choose to follow the Christian faith. So if you're from a marginalized caste, essentially what the Indian karmic system tells you, what the Hindu system tells you, is that you're in a low caste because you deserve it, because of things that have happened to you in the past. And therefore, you're supposed to be worthless, you're supposed to be miserable because you've earned it.
I think.
Sorry, whereas the Christian message is pretty much the inverse of it. God loves the poor, God loves the suffering, carry your cross with dignity, carry your cross alongside Christ, and it will liberate you and literally lead to your salvation. And no, you're not stuck in an endless cycle of having to atone for things that you supposedly did in past generations. There is hope for you at the end.
Yeah.
So you can see why this message would be very appealing to the lower castes. But from the perspective of the higher castes, if they don't have anybody to tread upon and to sort of humiliate and oppress, what's the point of being higher caste in the first place?
Question.
So you can see why you get this objection from the higher castes to the lower caste being converted.
I think. I mean, I don't want. Tell me if this derails the segment, but I think that there are 7 castes. The lower is the Dalit.
So there's 4 and the untouchables.
So it's 5.
So it's 4 castes. The untouchables are considered a non-caste.
Okay.
The untouchables are the casteless.
Right. Okay. But I think I read somewhere that basically they have 7 groups, and that in order that the idea is to achieve enlightenment.
Yes.
And that in order to achieve enlightenment, you need to do it 7 lives in a row. And
Right.
if you achieve enlightenment, not a sort of nirvana in a particular life, you get an upgrade in the next one, and you need to go straightforwardly this way. But
So basically,
Yeah.
you could be incarnated into an insect. You could be incarnated into an animal. But there is
but there are
I'm gonna
also
get into trouble for
so
this.
many variations. There are so many variations.
That's the
of
thing,
it.
because there's no such thing as Hinduism. It doesn't actually exist as a coherent set of beliefs. There are very many different forms of polytheism, alongside a couple of sort of epic myths.
Like the Mahabharata, the Ramayana.
The Mahabharata and the Ramayana, these are the two. Alongside some texts, none of which is seen as the final word in the sense of the Quran or the Bible, that are seen as the sort of that's it, that's what the word is. And then there are various different kinds of traditions, some of them that practice animal sacrifice, some of them that think cows are sacred and animals are not to be harmed. It's a mental and moral muddle that pulls in very many different directions. And then the gods have different forms according to Hinduism. So one day this god is a creator, and the other day he's a destroyer. And it's supposed to have a philosophical meaning that creation and destruction are sort of interlinked. Fair enough.
Don't want to derail the segment. I think there's the Hindu Trinity, where you have the Brahma,
Yes.
Vishnu. Brahma is the creator, the god of creation. Vishnu of balance,
Yes.
and then you have Shiva, who's
Shiva,
the
the
destroyer.
destroyer. Yes.
Yeah, but okay, I won't.
But
derail.
each of those has different forms.
Yeah.
And then there's a debate over whether or not it is all in the imagination of Brahma and nothing is really real. We're all part of God's imagination. Or if there is, in fact, a dual nature where there is something real and something spiritual, and nothing is actually established. So India, like Hinduism, isn't one thing.
But can't you say that the same applies for other religions like Christianity? Because in Christianity there are also theological debates.
Yes, there are theological debates, but not sort of fundamental disagreements over the nature of reality. It's a completely different thing. It's a completely different thing. It's not even comparable, I would argue, to Greek or Roman religions or to Chinese religions. It's the only genuine paganism that has survived, that and African animism. And it has zero system. There's nothing final about any of it. The concept of dharma, duty, well, it changes depending on what you're trying to do and what your situation in life is, which leads essentially to complete moral relativism. And this moral relativism is why you will hear people saying, well, Hinduism is so tolerant, help us oppress the Christians. It's a mental muddle. It's a mental muddle. But anyway, when Modi sort of attended this kind of event to say that they were trying to get him to say that he condemns it, but really all that he did was be a hypocrite. According to one journalist, after expressing his pain over incidents of violence in India, Modi did not mention a single incident from 2 daily cases of targeted attacks against Christians in 2024. Instead, he mentioned an attack in Germany on Christmas and an attack in Sri Lanka on Easter. So he sort of got India out of it. And tried to pretend that there is nothing that is actually happening there. And even when he was saying nice things, he was saying, teachings of Lord Christ celebrate love, harmony, and brotherhood. It is important that we all work to make the spirit together. Well, if you want to make it together, stop people attacking Christians. That would be nice. Part of the problem, I suppose, is that India is so big that it's impossible to police. Like the sheer size of the country makes it very difficult to police. But then when when one Hindutva leader says that, in March 2025, actually, he said that Christians should be killed and the women should be raped and their villages should be destroyed and any trace of Christianity erased from the region. And then he defended his calls for genocide by accusing Christians of engaging in the slaughter of cows. Look, man, the cows aren't sacred. I don't know how to say this to you, but there's no such thing as a sacred cow. It doesn't exist. They're a nice symbol of fertility in your religion, but the idea that the value of a cow is more important than the life of a Muslim or a Christian is absurd. Please stop that. He's called his followers to rally 50,000 people for scheduled attacks. Like, if you're going to announce to the police that you're conducting attacks, maybe the police should do something. Another politician offered, also from the same party as Modi, from the BJP party, he offered 350,000 rupees for assaults on priests and 1 million rupees if you kill a priest.
It's just paying for bounty hunters.
Yes.
To murder priests.
Yes. Which is, okay. This guy is going around destroying a statue of the Virgin Mary. Say a Hail Mary for us at home and for Christians in India. In Manipur in 2023, they killed almost 200 people, 71 missing, almost 300 villages torched.
And this is just truly medieval stuff.
Yes. Well, the medieval times were actually... Anyway, I'm not going to go there. But I want you to see this video and to see what sort of happens in some of these instances. So they've caught a Christian here. And they're making him say that he surrendered all books related to Jesus and any icons and the Bible. And if anything is found in his house that is related to the Christian faith, with some threats, obviously, then it's his responsibility what happens to him. And he's being made to say that from now on he's going to follow the Hindu religion and all of its faith and all of its rituals until he dies. That's forced conversion. That's forced conversion. And then glory to India, glory to Bharat. Okay, and then they do this again to another guy and to another guy and to another guy. and they filmed themselves doing it, and they put it up on social media.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is a bit disturbing, frankly. And the Trump administration says that it's pro-religious liberty and all of that. But really, come on. If you're going to defend Christians, mention this kind of thing. Show us some backbone. Show us some objections. Matt Forney here has a post saying that, look, if they're doing this in India, if they could, they do it elsewhere, frankly. And yeah, that's a bit of human nature. Again, another attack by a mob on Christians. Like, you could just find so many of these incidents dispersed all over India. Here is an interesting one. These are security guards, and they are supposedly protecting Christians, and then the mob arrives, and the police run away. Basically.
Yeah.
Which is a bit strange. You see this guy signaling to them. I'm not sure if he's telling them to go ahead and come in, but okay. This guy is armed. He could stop this. He doesn't. So this is clearly tolerated by the state. And in this incident, you had
just tolerated, but aided.
Yes, aided. In this case, aided. You had nuns who were attacked by Hindus because they'd recruited 3 girls to come work with them. And this was considered a forced conversion because, again, allurement or enticement or anything of that sort is supposed to be illegal. And so I'm not going to show you the video, but they humiliate the nuns. They shout at them. They abuse them. And then they say that they are the aggrieved party, which is kind of weird, frankly. But this kind of incident is really repeating. Now, they say that at its source is this ideology called Hindutva. And the idea behind Hindutva is that it defines the cultural identity of India in terms of Hinduism. And it wants to make India an overtly Hindu nation state. Okay, but then I don't want to hear from any Indian in the West any objection to Christian nationalism.
You'll hear it anyway.
I'm sure we're going to hear it anyway. And it's important to point out that these attacks aren't happening just against Catholics. They're happening against Protestants, against Baptists, against all kinds of different Christian communities. And again, these like the Catholic Christian community goes back literally to the first apostles. So it's not new. But this is a big deal, and this is important.
Do you think that this is, I mean, how far does this go? I mean, the escalation, because lately there have been geopolitical,
right?
Let's say has been geopolitical trouble between the U.S. and India.
And India, yes.
How much is this escalation owing to this?
Look, I don't think that's what's driving it. I think the BJP, as part of their identity, I mean, you have to remember that the BJP traces its roots to the 1920s, to before Indian independence. And the idea of Hindutva goes back to the 1920s. But for the BJP, the big boogeyman is the Muslims. And understandably so. If you've seen the number of terrorist attacks from Pakistan-sponsored against India, and if you see some Indian Muslims acting as fifth columnists, you get it. And Hindus, frankly, they have a very deep inferiority complex compared to the monotheistic religions, because everybody knows that polytheism is silly at this stage. Like, come on. Either there is one God or there aren't any. These are the two defensible positions. But the idea of a God embodied as a monkey, and an idea of a sort of God, one day he's a destroyer, the other day he's nice, he has his wife, he has his monkey form, he has his elephant form. Come on, guys. Get over it. It's over. And so the result of that, when confronted with very strong monotheism on the part of Islam, is that they get angry. And the Christians are sort of beaten in the storm. Like they get beaten up as part of the general wave.
Yeah.
They get attacked as part of the general wave. And it doesn't help that Christianity focuses on evangelizing the downtrodden, as it has always done. Because if you remove the lower castes from the caste system, again, what's the point of being uppercased? In a relativist morality, as Hinduism has, you know, power also has to be relative. And if the lower castes exclude themselves from the caste system by becoming Christian, then okay, it renders the whole thing pointless. So I don't think it's very tied to geopolitics.
I was talking. I wasn't talking about the phenomenon. I was talking about the escalation of it,
Right.
and the sort of phenomenon where the police is turning a blind eye to it. Whether right now
I'm not
it's
sure they're playing this
exacerbated or
game.
not.
I don't think that's the game that they're
Okay.
playing. I haven't seen any evidence of it. If somebody knows more than I do about this, please help me. But anyway, in the West, in Middlesbrough, there's a Hindu temple. In London, there are many Hindu temples, and apparently this is the right kind of Hindu Shiva temple with the right Tamil, Brahmin, Vedic pandits. I don't know half of these words. And in Texas, they've built the biggest statue of Hanuman, the monkey god.
Oh, yes, I saw this. Yes.
So
Because of assimilated.
yes, apparently this is assimilation. Like, it would be nice if it was two-way. I'm not of the view that we should be tolerating polytheism to begin with, so I'm not a big fan of tolerance to begin with. But I just want to remind you that while you're tolerating monkey gods, the monkey god worshippers aren't tolerating you. That's what I wanted to say, really.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.